going in now? Woo. Yay, finally I'm in. Oh my goodness. Whew. Oh my goodness, guys. This has just been something, me trying to get on tonight. Let me see if I can pull everybody in now. Thanks to your patience. I had to like restart computer and it's just been something. Trying to get everybody. I was even going to log in early so I could get on early. And I've just been dealing with this now for the last 10 minutes trying to get on. Thank you, everybody, for being patient with me. Alrighty. Awesome blossom. I really appreciate you guys. Woo! I've been like stressing, trying to pull all this. Okay. I really appreciate everybody joining me tonight. I hope you guys have all had a fabulous Mother's Day today. I have had a pretty good one myself. Got to go to church this morning and got to have family over this afternoon with my sister and brother-in-law and their family, and then got to spend a couple hours on a video chat with my missionary son, so it's been a great day. All righty. So tonight, awesome night. I have been pretty excited about the topic that we're going to talk about tonight, and I'm hoping after all my frantic trying to get the technical difficulties worked out that I'll be able to still have a good time tonight. Thank you so much again, though, for joining me on this evening of Mother's Day. And it being Mother's Day, I wanted to talk about being a mom, and specifically being a single mom and what that means. So I have this one friend that I have, and every once in a while she'll call me up and she'll be, Paula, I need parenting advice. Here's the thing. I've got this age son. Here's the problem. Go, kind of thing. What do I do? And she's telling me, Paula, you should write a book. And I said, well, I actually did, but it was a few years ago, and it needs to be updated because I've learned so much since then. So, oh my goodness. My advice 10 years ago was way different than, I don't know about way different, but a lot different than my advice now. Or at least add on or whatever, I don't know. Anyway, it'd be different. So I want to talk tonight about single moms and single moms in general. On Father's Day, we're going to talk about single dads. Or men in the church and whatever. So tonight we're going to talk about single moms and also being a single woman in the church. Okay? So that's kind of the topic at hand. So if you want to get your wheels turning and share your thoughts or questions or whatever, that would be awesome. So a couple of things. Mothers have huge influence. And fathers do too, so I'm not discounting that. Please do not take anything I say tonight to mean anything against fathers, because I think every child needs a father. Every woman needs a husband. I just feel like that influence cannot be replaced ever. And we'll go more into that when we get to Father's Day and we talk about single dads and we talk about single men in the church. So from here on out, just know that I am not at all in any way, shape, or form discounting the role of a single dad. Okay, but tonight I want to focus on single moms and being a single woman in the church. Okay, I wanted to give that caveat because I love men and I love the role of a father, and I have a lot of honor and respect for that. But moms have huge influence on their children in so many ways, and it's been so amazing to me in the last month especially. I've had so many friends that are women that have messaged me, called me, whatever, or I've read posts on Facebook about how they're just really struggling with being a single mom in the church, single woman, period, but specifically a single mom, and how hard it is and how much easier it would be for some of them outside of the church, or so they feel. And then there are those that will share their thoughts, and I've had those thoughts and feelings at times too. So I mean, that's not right or wrong, right? It's just your thoughts and feelings. But it's amazing to me how much Satan wants to attack us as women. We talked last week a little bit about our mindset, right? And some of the thoughts that we battle, and some of the not good enough feelings that we have. But that also plays a part in motherhood. How many of you think you've completely screwed up as a mother? Right? Like, right there. I will never forget, and I'm very grateful for the man that was a scoutmaster to a couple of my boys at the time. And I think I may have gone up and shared my testimony. I don't remember. Or I don't remember exactly the circumstances, but after sacrament meeting, he handed me a note. Well, my personality is a little strong. And let's just say I've been known to offend some people in my lifetime, stepping on toes or whatever, putting it out there, keeping it real. And I had a little bit of fear inside me when he handed me this note that, oh no, instead of sending me an email of, how much I need to back off of whatever they're doing in scouts or whatever, that he was going to write me a note. And that was what I was kind of expecting. And so I was like dreading reading this note. And instead, he wrote, I think around a page and a half, of how much he admired me as a mother and how he thought I was doing a great job. And I'm, of course, I'm kind of tearing up with this, and I'm like, oh no, he has no clue. I'm like completely screwing up, right? And he actually, in there was a phrase that he wrote. I don't remember much about that note other than this one phrase that has stuck with me to this day, and I share this with other moms, so I'm going to share it with you. And that is, behind every successful kid is a mother who thinks she completely screwed up. That make you feel better? It made me feel better. But more so now, looking at my kids grown and seeing I didn't completely screw up. Now, was I a perfect mom? No way was I a perfect mom. I made major mistakes. I did things I wish I could go back and change. I wish I could go back and change reactions to things. Wish I could go back and change whole days, whole weeks, whatever, But the things I did more things good than I did bad. And I'm grateful for that. But Satan's going to try to make us feel bad and make us feel like we've completely screwed up as a mom, because he wants us to mess up, right? He wants us to have a negative influence on our children in whatever way. And there were times when I did have a negative influence for my kids, so much so I have a daughter now, 10 years later, will remind me of one afternoon, something I said. And she's not quite letting that one go. I'm still working on that one. Anyway, so but either way, there are times though when it kind of goes back to forgiving ourselves, like we talked about on Easter when we talked about the forgiveness thing, and being able to forgive ourselves to be able to move on, to let go of the overreactions, let go of the times when we feel like, we made a bad choice, or we made a mistake, or we did whatever wrong, or we should have done this, and we should have done that, and whatever, because we can shoot ourselves to death, right? We can bring up all the stuff that we've done wrong, if that's what you want to do with your time. I'm not recommending you do that, because it kind of defeats the purpose. But it kind of goes back to, long tangent here, goes back to our huge, massive influence on our children. So much so that the decisions we make affect generations to come. What you do in a day, in a month, in a year, over time, affects generations. When I overreacted to whatever, because whatever the circumstances were, and I felt justified at the time, which, was still no justification. But when I can go back and I say to my teenage child at the time, I overreacted and I was wrong, in a calm way. That's huge, right? It shows humility. And a lot of times they don't necessarily fight back with that one. They're like, oh, wow, she just admitted fault, kind of thing. And it shows them that they can do that same thing, but we don't necessarily expect that of them. And teenagers, I'm sorry, they're just meant to be difficult. That's the way the Lord made them, so that we would want them to leave and grow up, okay, and get out of the house. That was the Lord's plan. I call 17 the year from Hades, because it just is. It is the year when you go from thinking, what happened to my wonderful child, to who is this person, to I think you just need to leave and get on your own and see the real world, and then you'll see what I mean by all this, kind of thing, right? If they were cute and cuddly like they are at 4, still at 17 and 18, we'd have a harder time letting go. So we've got to be able to let them go. But backing up a little bit, our decisions do affect generations. So that's why it's important that we stay in the church, that we go to the temple, that we show them by example how to live, how to be, how to talk, how to react to things, how to whatever, how to even apologize when we make a mistake, because we're going to, and we're human, and that's okay. If you don't make mistakes, I want to meet you. I want come talk to me, okay? Because it's just not possible. If you're human, you're gonna make some mistakes, even in parenting. And when I wrote my book, it was more about what to do for the emotional side of overcoming trauma, if you will, or overcoming a difficult situation. And not to say there's right or wrong in that. It's just my experience and what I did and what worked for me that may work for somebody else. And that's kind of how I present it, because I don't think that what I did with parenting necessarily was so brilliant, so awesome, that I just think everybody needs to do it. But I think it can help certain people in certain situations. For instance, there is something that I do believe in, the way that we talk to our teenagers, the way that we talk to our children matters. And standing strong to standards, and standing strong to our commitments, and doing what you say you're going to do, being where you say you're going to be. And if you don't think you're going to be able to follow through with it, then don't say it, And now I didn't have the whole father thing. They just had me at my best, and it wasn't always great. For the most part, it was good. But I mean, I had bad days, right? So, but my kids, I would just tell them often, I'm just like, whenever they were mad at me, or, annoyed that they weren't getting their way or whatever, I would just say, look, this is the best I've got, and I'm sure you're going to be a much better parent than I am. I hope you are. But for right now, you're getting my best, and you still have to do what I'm telling you to do, kind of thing. There are women that do come to me for parenting advice, and then I will give it to them, and they'll say, but if I tell them that, then they'll tell me they'll go live with their dad. And I'm like, is that a problem? Is their dad abusive? Is that would that be a bad thing, right? Because and I'm not saying that that I think we need to encourage, whatever, but kids are going to play one parent against the other when they have the opportunity. They just are. It's human nature. I see it in my 12-year-old grandson all the time, and it's just kind of funny being the grandma now, and I don't have to actually be a part of that. I'm like, you just got played, But they just do, They're going to want to get what they want, and they have learned what to do to manage one parent against the other. That's part of what they've learned growing up. They've learned how one parent will react, how they can get one thing out of one parent, one thing out. They know how they're good. They're good, right? But if you will hold to your standard, and you'll say, this is my expectation in my house, And you do it in a nice way, and you do it in a calm way. You can do it in a respectful way. I'm not saying that you do it in a timid way, though. You still need to hold firm to your standards. They will actually respect that more, they'll honor that more, and they will trust that more. Because when you back down or you buckle under pressure, under some sort of fear or intimidation that they're trying to put on you, and I've raised 4 teenage sons, speaking from experience here, then they will learn to not trust what you say. They will learn to not respect you. And you've taught them that, because you'll be like, oh no, if I do this, then they'll do this, and then whatever. It's just not going to happen. I'd rather that my kids be mad at me for a day or two, a week or two, whatever, knowing they're going to get over that sooner or later, but hold my standard. And I'm not saying be unrealistic. You definitely need to set realistic standards. The gospel, that For Strength of Youth pamphlet, great standards to abide by. That's kind of my Bible for raising kids. I would highly recommend that one. Then you stick to that. I don't think that we need to go overboard. We don't need to be ultra controlling. I do think teenagers, kids in general, need to be offered choices. Do you want the red shirt or blue shirt? We can start with when they're 3, right? You got to wear a shirt. We didn't give you that option. It was just which one you want. So, and a lot of ways through the years, if they feel like they have choices, if they feel like they have options of different things, they're going to be a lot more flexible with you, rather than them feeling like you got to control the whole thing, or you're controlling everything in their life and they've got nothing, right? Then they're going to feel kind of suffocated with it, and we definitely don't want that. I have learned, though, that the number one thing that a single mom can do for her children is to not put down or make negative statements about their father. And that's coming from a woman who has some ex-husbands that, let's just say, are not my favorite people in the world. Okay? So, but what I learned from that was, if you make negative comments about their father, you're actually making negative comments about that child. Because the child in their brain is going to start, and I actually learned brain development with my degree when I went back to school and did a whole, my emphasis was teenagers and their brain development and how to teach them leadership skills and whatever. So what I learned was that when you put down their father, you're basically putting them down. In their brain, they feel that they want to love both of their parents, right? And they feel like they're part of both of you, and that they don't want to make a choice. They really just don't, most of the time. There are times when they're kind of forced into it, my situation per se, but with most of them, they're not. Most kids get both parents in their lives, which is awesome. But when you put down their father, they then internalize that. And they think, well, if she thinks that about him, and I'm his son, then that must be what I am too. Now, do they do that consciously? Not necessarily. And it's the same way with fathers whenever they do it with their mothers. But what I've found is that it's more so when moms do it about their dads. When moms start talking about their dads in whatever way, and you can even say, this isn't you, this is just him. It's not going to matter. That doesn't help. It doesn't change anything. They will still internalize it as if it was them. And they will still then try to fight against that. Okay? So what I recommend is what Thumper used to say. If you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. And that became my way of doing it for a little bit, until I went through the forgiveness process. And then we started talking about good things about their father, and things that they learned, even if it was just a few things, it was still things that were good. So my youngest son is adamant about being a good husband and father. He's 19 and on a mission right now. He's an old soul though, and he has a goal, and he's more vocal about this now. My other sons also have the same goal, but he has just vocalized this more, and because biologically he's the son of a man who's incarcerated, so it's a little different than the others. Um, but he has made it so adamant about being a good husband and father and staying with his wife and children and how he wants to be. But he said, I haven't had someone to really show me how to be a good husband and father. He says, logically, I know some things, right? But haven't really seen it, haven't really felt it, haven't really experienced it. So he's going to figure it out on the way. But what he has voiced to me is he said, I just don't want to be like my father. I don't want to be like him. And it breaks my heart, you know? And so what I have done in the process is shared some good things about him. So then it doesn't seem like it's all bad just because he's in prison. But just something like, things he used to do for fun, or different shows he used to like to watch, or whatever, right? So it is something how we as moms can influence that. And I have found that through the years, the better the influence we can have on supporting, if they have the opportunity to have a father in their life, to support and encourage that relationship to be in a healthy way as much as possible, then that needs to happen. If there's abuse involved, if there's other negative things involved, then that's a different situation, right? But if none of that plays a part, then they need to be involved. Kids need a dad. Friendly Proclamation says that every child has a right to be raised and reared by a mother and a father. Now, we're in a situation where not all children can be raised with the mother and the father in the home, right? That's fine, but they can still have the influence of having the mother and the father. I have raised fatherless children, and they know on a very personal level what they missed out on by not having a father in their life. I know even more what they missed out on by not having a father in their life. My youngest son will even say, I think I'd be better at sports if I had a father in my life, because he's not a sports person. And I'm like, oh, baby, I don't know if that helped. Maybe he'd get more practice in, I don't know, but he was more gifted in music than he was in. I don't know that just having a father will help you with your balance and coordination any more than anything else, but But in his mind, I'll let him believe that, because in his mind, he thinks as a father, he needs to go and throw a football with a kid, and he needs to practice basketball better so he can go do that because that's what he has seen his friends' dads do, and that's what he wants to do. So anyway, so I think I hope that you understand what I mean by that, and with all the love of my heart, I'm just telling you that if you can keep how you feel about your ex, if it's anything negative, to yourself and not share that with your children, you will bless them so much more. I'm going to open it up for just a minute before I move on from this, to have you guys, if you want to make any comments, ask any questions, clarify anything. You can just unmute yourself.
Hey guys, it's Heidi.
Hi.
Hi. So yeah, I have an 18-year-old daughter and a 15-year-old son. And my son has a pretty decent relationship with his father and goes on weekends and visits him quite regularly. But my daughter has a very strange relationship with her father. And my daughter is about to graduate high school this Thursday. And so I have done this on my own. I did not have family near me um, from the time they were born till right now. I'm still raising them by myself. But with my daughter, the teenage years that you're talking about, it's really different between us. Our roughest time was the age 12 and 13.
Oh, wow.
With me and my daughter. We had a really, really rough period. But ever since then, we progressively have grown a lot together. And I feel like because of therapy, I've become a better mother. And we really are best friends. And so I'm not ready for her to go. she's she doesn't want to leave. She feels very comfortable at home. Now she's independent. She drives, she has a car, she's going to college. She just chooses to stay at the house and then travel to back and forth to college. And so I haven't got to that point to where I'm like, and I don't know if I will, be like, okay, you got to go. Now I think I might experience that with my son though. I'm not experienced it with her, but so it's a little different. So I'm like, did I do something wrong? Do you think I did something wrong? Since we're not having that, the tension, it's not there.
No, I don't think you did anything wrong. Quite honestly, with my youngest son, we didn't have that either. Well, with my others, I did. But with my youngest son, he watched the other ones. And so when he was like 13, 14, he's like, Mom, I'm not going to do that to you. And I'm like, can I get that in writing? Because everybody else would say that. They didn't do that kind of thing. And he and I are super, super close. So him leaving, for his mission, that was tough. That was tough. I mean, it's still tough. But I'm very grateful that I get a weekly call with him because Heavenly Father knew, that's like, I've been tough. But yeah, so no, you didn't do anything wrong. There are occasionally kids that are like that, and that will be awesome. And that it's with your daughter is even better. My daughter was the first one to move out on her own, which was fine. But yeah, no, you didn't do anything wrong. But there will come a time though when she will want to be more independent, and I think staying home and going to college is awesome. I told my kids when they were growing up that as long as they were in school, college or whatever, they could stay here and live with me, pay rent, whatever. But then after they were out of college, they had 6 months to move out to be on their own. Because I did want them to be independent and live independent of me. So.
Yeah, and my daughter does want to serve a mission too, and so she could actually be gone in 8 months. So she's preparing, and the change of them being able to talk to us weekly, I feel was extremely inspired because these kids are used to having immediate contact with us. I mean, they communicate with us on a regular basis. These new generations coming up are used to having contact with mom and dad, or just mom or dad or whoever in their hand, with mom in their hand with their phone.
Right.
And so I think part of that might have been some of the reason why some may went home so early. So that really was inspired. But anyway, thank you for your comments. I needed 18 and 15-year-olds in my house right now. Right now at the moment, I love them and I don't want to choke them. So.
That's awesome. Yep. Great. Thank you so much, Heidi. Anybody else have a comment, question, suggestion, advice, experience, story?
I think for me, Paula, my kid's dad moved across the street from us. And so that almost made it more difficult. You would have thought that because he was close and he still had a lot of access to them, that it would have been a lot easier on them. But I think as he moved on with his life and got married pretty quick and adopted her daughter, and they saw him moving on, that was really hard for them. And in a lot of ways, it made us a lot closer. And that relationship built really strong, really quick between us. And he was a great father before he wasn't. And when he went off the deep end, he literally went off the deep end and was a changed man after that. And so it was really hard for them to see all of that. But I think as far as motherhood is concerned, I think that we just have to do our best to foster positive relationships with our kids. But setting boundaries as a mother and child relationship is super important, like you stated, but I think that has to go over into our new relationships as well. Boundaries in every relationship is important, in particular with our kids, so that they're not, so that they're not taking advantage of us. When we don't have boundaries and relationships, period, we become taken advantage of.
Yes.
And that was the point I wanted to make.
I love it. Thank you. That is awesome. And you know, when you talk about your kids and their father's relationship, well, it may have been harder on them. They saw it. They felt it. It wasn't you telling them, hey, your father's across the street and I'll spend time with you. You know, they figured that out, right? While it hurt and whatever, it was on him, what he was doing versus on you. Does that make sense?
It does. And one of the things that I think I struggled with the most was they would come to me because we did have a close relationship and would complain about him. And in the beginning, I would try and fix that between him and them. And about a year in, I was like, okay, time out. This is something you need to take up with your dad.
Yeah.
And they would tell me, but if I say something to him, it's not going to get any better. And I said, again, you need to take that up with your dad. Mm-hmm. It's not my job to be the mediator anymore. As much as I love you guys and want you to have a relationship with your dad, and I do, I've pushed them from day one to keep that relationship with him. Yep. They had to learn that if they had a problem, they had to talk to him.
Exactly. That's awesome. And that was what I had told my first husband as well, is just, you know, your relationship with them is your relationship with them. It's on you. So
I'm just sad it took me almost a year to get there, you know, because that was a lot of fighting between he and I that did not need to go down.
Right.
You know, grateful we weren't together anymore. And I think he ultimately was too. And so it just caused a lot of tension. It didn't need to. And I think that as mothers, we need to be mindful of the fact that we've got to do whatever it takes to salvage their relationship. And in that moment, when they're having problems, having them work it out is salvaging their relationship.
Exactly. Yep. That's awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Anybody else? All right. Any other comments? You let me know. I want to go into some mom guilt conversations. Anybody feel any of that? I can tell you. So I had an experience with my daughter, like I was saying, about 10 years ago, that she still hasn't let go. I had a really, really just bad time in my life. This was probably, I think, a year or two, maybe 2 or 3 years after the sentencing. My mom was dying of cancer, and I was in school full time, going back to BYU, and I had teenagers at home. And my daughter was, I think she was 18. And she was working a part-time job. And let's just say she was a challenge. You're from Hades, it kind of spilled over. And after she left for work, one of my younger sons came to me and goes, does she have to keep living here? I mean, it was so bad. It was just so bad. And I called her up on her way and I said, I'm going to share with you the worst day of myself, my overreaction of my daughter, okay? Keeping it real, people. I called her up and I said, we have issues that, we've got to work out, and we can't keep living like this. And since you obviously aren't wanting to change, budge, whatever, and it's creating so much issues with our family, I think that tonight you need to go find a place to stay. Just go stay with a friend, go whatever, just don't come home, right? And she said, well, where am I going to stay? And I'm like, well, you can stay, we lived in Utah, the ward was 2 blocks, right? There was several friends she had, and I started listing off names. She goes, well, what if I can't stay there? I'm like, well, then sleep outside for all I care. Just find somewhere else to stay, right? And it was a bad day. So I felt guilty. Okay. A couple hours later, she's still at work. I called her up. Said, I am so sorry. I overreacted. I shouldn't have said that. Just come home. We will work this out. We've got to work this out. We've got to get through this. We just can't keep living like this. But just come home and we'll settle it, right? So she did. She came home. She was mad at me. She went to her room. I think she ate dinner. Honestly, I don't remember. But she was at home. To this day, she will tell her friends, she will tell her therapist, she will tell everybody that mom kicked her out of the house. And I did for the 2 hours that she was at work. I own it. I did it. I overreacted. Okay? And I get the emotional side that she went through, a worry over where she's going to stay. I get that. I own that. I did that. Okay? But I'm kind of thinking, and I've even asked her, I said, do you remember your part in that? Do you remember at all how you were acting, for that week, that month, that whatever, when I had just had it and I was just over it? Because I was very patient up until that point. I was just like, done with this kind of thing, And she doesn't. In her mind, she did nothing wrong. In her mind, out of the blue, I called her up and kicked her out of the house. Now, she's got other issues that she's dealing with. I got that. She's got other whatever. I understand that. And I understand that part of it. But to this day, and I have apologized so many times, through tears, through letters, through whatever, for that 2-hour mistake and overreaction. Okay? And all she'll tell me is, I've still got stuff we got to work on before we can repair our relationship. Okay. Okay. So, and she says that's the worst thing I ever did to her. At least that's what she's let me know. Can't think of anything else. I'm sure there's something, but in my mind, I'm thinking I did way worse things to the boys. I overreacted. Jeremy snuck out of the house one night in the middle of the night, walked 8 miles to go meet up with a girl, and I find out about this 3 days later. That boy didn't get a driver's license for almost 2 years. I was just like, overreaction. Oh yeah. Like way worse things with other people, right? So now Jeremy had other history involved that led up to that. I'm like, boy. Anyway, but so feeling guilty, I'm just letting you know those are a couple of instances of mom guilt. Keeping it real, people, keeping it real. So mom guilt here that I have held on to. Now I've had other guilt. I'm not going to share with you all those because some of it's too personal to share, but some mom guilt that has just been debilitating in some ways. The whole issue of my last husband and going to prison. I married a man that was had a double life kind of thing and was going to be going to prison. And I'm like, what the heck? What was, how did I not know this? there was some mom guilt there, a huge mom guilt there. So there was, there's a lot to be able to let go of different things that we've done and to forgive ourselves. And our kids may or may not forgive us. And again, that's on them. When we apologize, when we do all that we can do, when there is nothing more that we can do to apologize, to ask forgiveness, to whatever, it's on them. Because Christ paid the price. You know, if you've gone through everything that you need to go through to, you know, ask forgiveness or whatever, then let it go. That 2-hour kicking my daughter out of the house, I've let it go. I'm over it. Okay. I own it. I overreacted. I shouldn't have done that. I got all that, right? But it is what it is. Brian says, I think what may help with this and helps with me is much like our own internal dialogue, that our dialogue with our kids can be positive, constantly rehashing good memories, always asking the kids what their favorite memory of vacations, Christmases, etc. was, keeping positive memories a topic of conversation instead of focusing on hard times and negative memories has helped me, just trying not to talk about bad memories and refocusing on good ones. If it was a one-time mistake and not a real issue, hopefully the good times will overshadow the bad. Right. And that has been something that I have tried to help her. Because she'll remember all of our game nights, and she'll remember our movie nights and our pizza nights and our, you know, the time when we did bowling, the time we did Special Olympics with Matthew, and the time we did, I mean, we have so many good memories, right? But she had one thing. So yeah. Yeah, but the boys do. The boys have all gone, Mom, we know you did the best you could and we're good, you know, kind of thing. And it's so funny, Jeremy's 23 now, and we joke. Even just today on our family call, he was all, you know, we're talking about how I went back to school. I joke every once in a while about going back to get my master's. And Chris is like, oh, I don't know, Mom. It was so hard for you to get your bachelor's. I said, you know why? I had 5 kids. And TJ speaks up and he goes, you didn't have 5 at home, because he was on a mission at the time. I said, trust me, I had 5. And Jeremy goes, yeah, because I counted for 2. I was like, amen. You know, he owns it. It's real, you know. So yeah, it's something how we are as moms, and we do just make the most of it, and we do want to focus on good times, and actually that's going to be the next thing I do want to get into is just creating the good times and the good memories on any kind of budget. Fred, you had a comment to make? Oh wait, you're muted. Hold on. Okay, now go, Fred. I can hear you. Yep, I can hear you now.
I'm in the car.
You look like you're in the car.
I have a daughter who, yeah. I have one of these. This is what I sit around the TV watching. But anyway, the memories of children of what terrible thing you might have done to them. And I had a daughter who was 16 or 17. I can't remember, living with us. My late wife and my previous wife's daughter. She lived with us for a few years. And we told her that if you're going to you can't bring drugs into the house. If you do drugs, you can't stay here. To this day, she's now in her late 30s, she says, you kicked me out. And I said, no, we did not kick you out. We said, if you're going to bring drugs and do drugs here, you cannot stay here. And so, you know, I've refreshed that with her a number of times, and she keeps telling me, no, Dad, you kicked me out. No, I didn't. I mean, we have a great relationship. We do. I know I was a terrible kid and all that, but she was tough, let me tell you.
Yeah.
She's doing really well now, though. They do grow up eventually.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
Thank you, Fred. Mary says, being a stepmom, it was really hard to know how to help and keep my place. Just saying we aren't all horrible. I know, right? So yeah. All right. So, but focusing on Single moms, I'm telling you, it can be a challenge. It is hard, especially if you're the primary parent. Now, I'm grateful.
Paula, before we move on, can I say one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think if that is the worst thing you guys did to your children, I am the most horrible mother on the planet.
No, you're not.
I'm just saying, if that's like the worst thing you guys did, that's pretty mild. But I tell my kids when they start giving me a hard time, I tell the kids when they start giving me a hard time, I was like, look, if that's the only couple of things you could come up with that I screwed up on, that means I'm a good mom.
I know, right? Yeah.
I think that when they've only got those couple of things that, you know, trigger whatever, and they think they're going to get to you and kind of work on that mom guilt, they're going to try and play that.
No, yeah, totally.
So now I just totally, yep, I own it. I did that. That's right. You
Right.
acted the fool, so I was playing right along with you.
Mm-hmm.
I was one up in your silliness.
You know, kids, am I still on the air here?
Yes, you are still in the air.
Well, you know,
Yes.
between dads and boys, sometimes it gets physical. I don't know if y'all know that. And it's not always initiated by the dad, but it has to be responded to by the dad. So that's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
Or fed by the mom if you're the only one in the home and the boy gets a little froggy.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and I'm just glad that I got him trained before he got bigger than me. But I weigh more than him. That's the only way I can take care of it. I don't want the abuse. Never mind. I'm not saying it anymore.
Okay. So one thing that I do, if you are the mom of or dad, this will work for both, but I did this as a mom and it worked for me. If you are a mom of a younger kid, about the time they're 10, I had a little one-on-one talk with each one of my children. And back when they still thought I was kind of cool and knew what I was talking about, right? And I would just tell them that within the next like 10 to 15 years, they were going to experience a miracle in their life. And they were like, you know, big-eyed and going, what do you mean, Mom? And I said, well, within the next 2 to 4 years, I'm going to lose my brain. I will get stupid. And you will know more than me. But that's okay. That's very normal. I said, because then in your early 20s, miraculously, my brain will come back and I will know what I'm talking about again. So when that comes, though, we'll be okay. I'll still, you know, be your mom and I'll still be driving you places and I'll still be at your different whatever and I'll still be helping you with things. Just you'll know more than me, but that will be okay. Okay. So basically, you know, I'm telling them what to expect. I also tell them, I said, there's going to be days when you're not going to like me. Some days you might even hate me. And that's okay too. That's going to be normal. And I'm going to love you no matter what. Okay? So no matter how much you don't like me, no matter how much you hate me, I'm still going to love you no matter what. And I have stuck to that. And through their teenage years, they may have needed a reminder. But I also lightened it up a little bit. The first time they rolled their eyes at me, I did a little dance. I would go, I am stupid. I have lost my brain today. Now, we get down to the third kid, my daughter's videoing it. I said, that better not make it online. But it was something, though, that they knew Mom was going to do, you know? And then when they turned 14 and could go to dances, I sang them, I Hope You Dance, karaoke style kind of thing, you know, being goofy and kind of fun, right? So they know this is just what I did. But people asked me, well, what is it that you did to have your teenagers show more respect for you? Well, that's one of the things I did. I told them when they were younger what to expect as teenagers. I told them there were going to be days they're not going to like me or they may even hate me, and that's okay. That's normal. You know, I didn't want them to think that was abnormal or that they needed to fight against that was okay. And I would even tell them when they were going through it, I understand that you hate me right now. That's really okay. I'm still going to love you no matter what, and you're still going to do what I'm telling you you're going to do. you know. It's just one of those things where you cannot let teenage boy, girl, whatever, intimidate you. Now, I know I'm focusing on some of the negative of teenagers, but there's a lot of positive, and that's what I want to get to now. There's a lot of great aspects of raising kids, even as a single mom. And there were some fun things that we did, and I knew going into it that we would need to create some good times, as Brian Poole talked about. So I went back to college, and we didn't have a lot of money coming in. You know, we made enough to pay the rent and pay the bills and whatever, but we just didn't have a lot. I just felt it was important for me to go back to finish my bachelor's degree, if nothing else, but to set the example for my kids, to say, hey, you need to do this. Because I was the first person in my family history to get a bachelor's degree. So that was kind of thing. So what I started doing was Saturday night pizza and movie night. We would do homemade pizza, would make the dough, would get the toppings, and that has evolved through the years, you know, to be different things. And then we started adding homemade ice cream to that, and then there were nights when certain nights of the week we'd do game night. It wasn't just family home evening night. It was different nights of the week we'd do game night, we'd do Farkle or Uno or whatever. I mean, there were some games that we banned, like Sorry and Monopoly. Mama was not going to participate in those. But there were other games, though, that were fun, and that, you know, they love certain card games. One called Scum. Oh, my goodness, how they love those things, right? So, so she loves those kind of, I mean, they just love those kind of things. And so those kind of memories we had. We had the sitting around watching certain TV shows together. Monk was one of those. We loved Monk. You know, there was just a lot of different memories that we would do with different aspects of it. The times when I would bring home a treat. Something I learned is that when you are going through, say, a low income situation, when you can do more fun things or you have treats involved, the kids don't feel like you're poor. And that was something that, thankfully, my kids realized and learned through the years. They would even tell me, they'd come to me and go, oh, I didn't realize that we were poor. You know, and I was like, all right, I hid that well, that kind of thing. There are ways around that, because what I've learned is that poverty is more a mindset than it is an actual situation. So there were ways I could still dress my kids in good clothes. It didn't matter if it came from Goodwill or a clothing swap or whatever. It was a way that I treated it. You know, it was how I talked to them about it. It was, hey, look at what this great thing I got for you kind of thing, versus, hey, I had to go to Goodwill to get that. You know, there's a mindset to that. My clothes still come from Goodwill. My clothes still come from a clothing swap. And I don't, you know, and that's okay. I've never been much of a shopper anyway. Although I have a couple of friends that want to change that about me. So anyway, there are just things that I've just learned that, you know, be a little more frugal, be a little more whatever. And frugal's different from poverty, I think. They're, you know, just things. I have learned through the years that mindset in raising kids is way better than money in the bank or whatever else, if that makes any sense at all. So the situation of being single, my kids do know that I don't like being single. That I was not going to hide. But they don't see me laying around in bed feeling sorry for myself, because I am. They've seen me still be a very independent woman who's, you know, finished school and gotten a job. I've created and built a business. I do other things, and I'm active in the single adult program and whatever else. So they don't see me sitting around feeling sorry for myself because of it. And they also see how I manage my time and whatever else. But they do know that it's just not a fun thing. It's not something that I enjoy. We all miss that aspect of having the husband and father in our life kind of thing. Okay, so, sorry, big tangents tonight.
Can I say something, Paula?
Please say something.
Hey, okay, so even, you seem to be like that hardcore get her done kind of woman. Did your children see you struggle?
Oh yeah.
Because I think sometimes.
You think what?
I said because I think sometimes I struggle with this where I don't like to be weak. I don't like to fail. I don't like to be wrong. So sometimes for a long time I tried to hide that from them, and I just wanted them to see the mom, the go-getter, the mom who always had it together, but I didn't realize that I was keeping them from actually growing by seeing the one who they think has it all together struggle too. And so through therapy, I learned that, like, when I was going through a really difficult time spiritually, I was so afraid for them to see that and to know that about me, because I didn't know what it was going to do to them. Because I didn't want to affect them in that way. And still now, I still have that what if I do something wrong and they see me do something wrong, and what if it alters their testimony, or what if it alters their choice in life, or whatever. And just this whole big responsibility. But my mom told me one day, she said, they need to see you struggle too. Yep. And so I stopped trying to hide it, and I actually opened up to them, and they comforted me, and they like carried me through a lot of those nights and those times when I was struggling. And Mom, it's going to be okay. Mom, you got this. We love you. You haven't messed up. You're not you didn't screw us up. We get it. And so I think I allowed them to be human by showing them that I was human too. And so I wondered if anybody else struggles with that or had a hard time with that. Are we all afraid to show our weaknesses to our children, or are we vulnerable with them too?
I'd like to answer that one if you're
go
okay.
ahead. Mm-hmm.
I think that I know that in the beginning I tried to hold it all together, and I picked up a lot of coping mechanisms, like having to be super clean, and every night before everybody would go to bed I would vacuum straight lines on the carpet, and like that was the one thing I could control, was the cleanliness of our house and how everything was going on in there. And when like the real me surfaced, and I couldn't keep up with that. I couldn't keep working a full-time job and a part-time job and taking care of all of my kids by myself and trying to put myself back out there to date and all of those things. I couldn't keep up with it all. And I started physically becoming sick, and my kids got really worried about me. And so I think it's really important for us to let our kids know that we're not perfect, and that we remind them all the time that when we fail, we're there for each other. And that taught them a valuable lesson, that it doesn't matter if we live together or we live thousands of miles apart, like all of my kids live away from me right now. They know, out of everybody in this world, no matter what, this woman right here will be in their corner, and they can call me for anything, and that we'll get through it together. And I learned a very valuable lesson, and my kids taught me that. They told me, Mom, it is okay for you not to come across as being perfect. We know the struggles that you're going through. We know you're making yourself sick, because they were a little bit older. And, I think that we have to remember that, be vulnerable. Find people that you trust. And if you can't trust your kids, who can you trust? Be vulnerable with them.
Amen, amen, amen. Anyone else want to comment on that? To the weaknesses of being a single mom? So with what I was going through, I couldn't hide it. I was so real, so weak, and so broken. It took a few years to even get to where I'm at now, or get close to where I'm at now. So, so my kids saw real all along the way, and we just kept it real. And they've seen me at my bottom, um, and it was just something that I just couldn't hide. It was very open, it was very vulnerable, and it was very in my face kind of thing. So, but we went through it together because it affected them too, and I think that helped us just become closer together. So yeah, I mean, you have to be careful with some of that. Sadly, what I went through affected our entire family. So it wasn't something that we could necessarily, um, I couldn't hide it. It just, was what it was. And um, to have a father, have police at your house arresting them, we couldn't hide all that, right? I mean, there's just no way around that. And we did. We kept it. I kept it real.
I think we have to be careful, though, Paula, not to. We don't have to share the exact situations that we're going through, but I think we talk very clearly about our feelings.
Right. Yeah.
That's totally okay to be vulnerable about. I don't think we talk about the argument that we had with Dad,
right.
or
Exactly.
whatever. I was talking more about just feelings.
Right. Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah. You don't want to go through. Yeah. There were certain things about my situation that my younger kids had no clue about, other than their dad was going away, kind of thing. So yeah. I mean, but it's just. But you just do keep it real. But I appreciate Jennifer's clarification, and I completely agree with that. You don't want to give them specifics. You don't want to give them whatever. It's just, I love how you pointed out it is just the feelings, and it was. I mean, I remember several times when my son would walk in on me sobbing the ugly cry in the kitchen, and them just hugging me and just holding me and just not knowing what else to do. Matthew, who has Asperger's, and remember one time I was just in the kitchen and I was just sobbing, and he's like, "What do I do? What do I do?" He goes, "I'll hug Mom." He said, "Mom, I didn't know what else to do, so I just hugged you." I'm like, that works. What else are you gonna do, right? You got a mom that's losing it here, and so yeah, yeah. I love, though, I completely agree with Jennifer. You do have to be very careful about what you do share with them. You don't want to, they're not your counselor, your therapist, or whatever. But yeah, but just different things that you're feeling. That's awesome. And we do want to make sure that we spend time with them to. Hold on a minute. With you in that room. Okay. So anyway, whenever you also want to, I love how someone has brought up the 8-second hug, and making sure that we do get to hug them. I was not a big hugger. I tried to be when they were younger. I don't know why, but I wasn't really good at giving hugs, and I wish I was more. My oldest son was always coming up to giving me hugs, and after a while, I just felt like, already, go away already. But now I miss that, right? Some of my kids were huggers more than others, and so they would more come up to me, and that was cool, and would cuddle on the couch or whatever, and that was cool. But definitely take time to spend time with them and to make good, positive memories, to keep it good, to keep it real. to make the most of a situation that you may not want to be in. It wasn't your choice or may not have been your choice, but you can show them still that even when bad things happen, it doesn't have to stay bad, and it doesn't have to always feel bad, but that you can come back from that. So, what are some things that that you feel like that you do or can do to create positive memories, or maybe things you've done? Oh, Heidi, tell your daughter she's beautiful too. We're so grateful for that. That's awesome. So open it up, if you would, please, for a little bit, and then we'll get into another topic here in a minute on this, on what you did or can do to help create positive memories for your kids.
I think, right now I'm the Relief Society president for my ward, and so with all of the responsibilities that come with that, and then the Come Follow Me curriculum, and we're trying to do those things. But one of the biggest things I think that we're trying to do as a church is to become more flexible and meet people, your families, and your ministering sisters, whatever, with flexibility on how it works for you. So when we started doing Come Follow Me and the kids would just take turns facilitating. And sometimes, you always have this picture, you have this picture of this family sitting around on the couch and everybody's arms are folded and, it's just peaceful and everybody's listening intently. Well, that's just not reality. And so with a 15-year-old and an 18-year-old, what generally happens is new terms that are brought to our attention through the Bible become new slang words, and they start saying things like, the mote in your eye. They go to school and make that the mote is now a new slang word, and everybody in the school is saying it. And we're laughing and we're giggling and we're having a hard time. And I had a moment of clarity when my daughter was facilitating. My son was sitting in the chair on the love seat, and I was in the chair. And they were laughing about something that was said. And I just had this moment of clarity that this right here is what's going to make the difference. Not necessarily the material that we're reading, but the memories that are being formed while reading the material. And so I have a picture of Jesus smiling. It's my favorite picture. It's not the one where he looks very stern. He's smiling. And my daughter will point up to him all the time and be like, see, JC thinks it's funny. And so, I think that's what we do. I've become more relaxed, more realistic about what these things look like. They all look different for everybody. We'll have family prayer while my daughter and son are on their way to seminary, and I'm at work at the office. So it's not, it doesn't look, you just alternate what you have and what works for you. And so I think that's been the biggest difference for me and my family, and how we can have fun memories, is I've laid back and relaxed and realized it doesn't have to be this picture perfect thing, and that I can alternate it and form it the way I need to that works for us. And so that's helped with them too, to be more relaxed and more willing and more wanting to be more involved. And they love taking control and facilitating. And I'm used to being in control of everything. And they put me in my place. They're like, are you going to let me do this, Mom? Are you going to let me teach? So her and my son do it all the time. But that's been my experience with the Come Follow Me, and with trying to make good memories and with the kids, is just to let them be who they are, and to just be relaxed about it and not try to make it forced into some box and make it look a certain way.
Right. I love it. That's awesome. All right. Anybody else? Anything that you did to create good memories, or anything you feel like you can do?
Me and my kids played a lot of games together. we always had evening talks. They all came up in my room at the end of the day when everybody was at home, and we talk about what we did all day long, and how the day went, how it could have gone better, those types of things. We always did best and worst. How can we change the worst part to make it better, and those types of things. And on the weekends, we all did cuddle puddles, is what we call them, where we just all kind of got together and just kind of laid there and giggled and, just had a good time just being a family, what our new family looked like.
Awesome. So, someone else, they made a comment. Says, be unexpected. My youngest and I were in McDonald's. We pray in public. I asked him prayer. Food wouldn't kill us. We still roll in fits of laughter. All right, thanks, Pat. Okay, so someone asked earlier what we do about priesthood leadership when it comes to being a single mom. So I did have 4 sons and 1 daughter, and I was heavily involved with the scouting program. Like I lived, ate, and breathed it right along with them. I knew the Scout Oath and Law before they did. I knew that scouting program backwards and forwards. Now, that's me. I'm not suggesting that for anybody else, especially since the church is phasing out of it. Please don't go spend that time to do that. But when it comes to priesthood leadership, that was bittersweet for me. I remember when we were first, I think it was like the first year or 2 that I was single, had my kids, and we were trying to figure things out. There was another single mom in the ward who had a daughter and a son, and she didn't come to church all the time. They came to church when they could get a ride or whatever the kids did. And I remember her calling me up one day because we lived like, I think, a street apart, and her kids were my kids' ages, so sometimes we'd have the kids over for dinner. And one time she called me complaining that one of the young man leaders in the ward was taking her son to a ball game or taking him to, I don't know, McDonald's or wherever. And can you believe that he's trying to spend this time with my son? How dare he? And I told her, she goes, so, what do you think I should do about that? Or something like that. And I just said, I wish that there would be somebody that would take time with one of my sons like that. But because I was at church every Sunday and my kids were at church every Sunday, they thought, oh, Paula's got this. We're good. They were comparing my Sunday best when I could put my face on for 3 hours and be okay for that time to not even having a clue what our family was struggling with through the week, right? So when it comes to priesthood leadership, we've had some bishops who've been really heavily and positively involved. We've had some scout leaders who've been really heavily and positively involved. And we've had those not so much. But thankfully, we've had more that are versus those that were not. But it did help me going to the bishop and saying, here's what I need. My sons need somebody that they can emulate in their life. Because something I've learned is that all teenage boys are going to join a gang of some kind. My boys joined Scouts. That was their gang. Had a couple of boys join band. Had one try football. It didn't matter. They just needed some group to belong to. And having studied that and having experienced that, I know that all boys need a group to belong to. All teenage boys. They will find one if they don't have one. Okay? And not always is it going to be an awesome group that they just decide to find, depending on their self-esteem and their comfort level and how easy it is to get involved, right? So I always recommend for teenage boys to be involved with the Wednesday night activities, whether they want to or not. Doesn't matter. It's who we are. It's what we do. My kids heard me say that so much till I was blue in the face. They live with me. They went to church. It was who we are. It's what we do. We go to Scouts. It's who we are. It's what we do. Whatever, right? So show up on Wednesday nights. Talk to the bishop. Let them know that there's a need for young men leaders to help guide them, to be a part of their life. They may or may not. Do not expect it. Do not assume it, but ask for it, okay? Number 2, get them involved with some good, wholesome group of some kind. Band is always great. Chorus is awesome. What are other good ones? There are some sports teams are awesome. Swim teams I've heard great things about. Soccer is usually good. Some football teams are great to be a part of. I won't say all of them, but depends on the coach, depends on the team, depends on the players. But either way, that they just need a group to be involved with, and hopefully they will make good friends that are in the church, that are good, that are they have testimonies of the church, because your kids are going to care more. Most teenagers, especially boys, are going to care more about what their friends say than what their parents say. So know who their friends are, know who they're hanging out with, because that's going to be important. I would definitely tell the boys to invite the gang over to your place. Know who their friends are. Be involved. Okay? Definitely. Have those team parties at your place if you can. Or make it happen however you can. But when it comes to priesthood leadership, do the best you can. Like I've said, I've lived in a few different wards, so it's hit or miss. But for the most part, it's been great. For the most part, it's been just awesome. We've had some great seminary teachers. They've had great Sunday school teachers. They've had great young men leaders. They've had somebody in their life that has kind of taken them in under their wing and have helped guide them. Each one of my sons will tell you about somebody, whether it was a young men's leader, a bishop, a Sunday school teacher, a seminary teacher, somebody that had an influence in their life. Okay? If they continue to show up and they get more positive attention, they will have a better positive reaction. Kids are going to get attention either way, be it positive or negative. We can hope that it's more positive than negative, right? Any comments, questions on that one?
I have a question about, so our experience here, we are in Mississippi and we are in a small ward, but we find that my kids are only friends with the other youth in the church only on Sundays and Wednesdays, but my kids' real friends are friends at school who are not members of our church. And so I don't know how we get away from that. I don't know how we change that, because now my kids are being influenced by other children that go to school that they feel like they're completely accepted by every day of the week, not just on Sundays and Wednesdays. So how do we, I know my kids' friends to the extent that I can know them because of my circumstance and where I live. We live in a trailer, and so my children are very conscious about that, and so they don't invite people over here. But my children also don't go stay at other places either, so it worked out kind of okay. But I'm just wondering, like, did y'all's kids experience the same thing, and how did you deal with that?
I did, but first I want to open it up to other people. Jennifer?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think we teach our kids how to pick their friends and who is okay to have in their life and who is okay to be in their life to influence them, and hopefully for the good. I think that regular conversations with our kids on who is good to have in our life, whether they are in the church or not. There are a lot of good people that are not members of the church. We always want our kids to hang around members because they know and understand standards already, but there are good people outside of the church as well. And I think as long as we teach our kids how to pick good friends, that is where we need to spend our time. educating them on how to make good friends.
Awesome. Anyone else? Okay, so my experience has been the very same, Heidi. I can't think of a kid, none of my kids, all 5 of mine have always had friends at church that were Wednesday and Sunday friends. Then the rest of them, they all had friends at school. And some of them weren't great influences. Jeremy, he kind of rebelled on the whole group thing, like I tried to get him in band, then he tried football, and then he started, it was easier. And that's what he tells me now. He says, Mom, it was just easy to go with that group of friends because they were going to accept him no matter what. Didn't have to do anything to work for it. And, not that he did anything horrible, but he hung out with them at school. His grades went bad. His grades went downhill bad because he'd be talking in class instead of doing his work. But I mean, he didn't do anything like major because my thumb was on that boy. Like, he really didn't get his driver's license till he was 18, maybe almost 19. Anyway, I just knew, there were just things that I had to do that, to be able to help him and to guide him. There were things I needed to have a tight rein on him. There were others. My youngest son, it didn't matter. That boy had his own set of whatever, and he gravitated toward people that, well, he was friends with everybody, like everybody, but he was also more of a leader. And whereas Jeremy was more of a follower, and people were following him, even though they knew as a member of the church that he would share his testimony often at school, and especially if people asked him about different things, they'd have different conversations. But he also was very good about listening to their point of view and what they believed, and he wouldn't necessarily put them down. He didn't go party with them. They knew not to even invite him because he wasn't going to be going to do the drinking and the drugs and the whatever. They knew that. They even said, hey, Chris, this isn't something you're going to want to do. When he came around, they were like, hey, guys, Chris is coming. We got to clean it up. Meaning they couldn't be cussing anymore because he was coming around. But yet these people loved him. Like, he was one of the most popular kids in school. But he was probably, of my 5, the only one that was like that. The others, Megan was more of a loner. She had a couple of friends, but just kind of stayed to herself more. TJ had some friends, but again, it was just a small group, but he was in band. And so that was more his thing. And then Matthew was Asperger's, so if he had a friend, it was awesome. It was like somebody that he was talking about, whatever. So, it just varies, but I wouldn't discourage having friends at school. I think it can be a very positive thing for both, as long as they're grounded in the gospel and as long as they have their standards they maintain. There's nothing at all wrong with having their best friends at school. My kids did that too, and I've also lived in a trailer, so I totally get that. But I don't know. It's just different things. It's just different aspects of. I think it's more the mindset toward it. I hope that makes sense. I don't even know if that helped. I can hope that it did. But we'll see. Anyone else have any comments? Hey.
I don't want to get any feedback.
It's all good.
Okay. My 2 youngest were the only ones that had to deal with divorced life as teenagers. I was so fortunate. My second to the youngest, Tim, was loved by everybody in the church. I mean, we would go to youth activities at the stake level, and he would just disappear, and it was a blessing. I don't know how you teach that. I don't know how you even foster that. But it was so good for me to see that, and his youngest brother saw that as well, and in his own life is doing that very same thing. Yes, in our ward they have their Sunday, Wednesday friends. And they might see each other at school, they might not, and they probably don't go out of their way to find each other. But because he puts himself out there without, outside of the boundaries of the ward, it just, I know it makes it easier somehow, some way, somehow.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Other comments on that?
I think the way we teach our kids or foster that in them is make sure that they have a good self-esteem.
Yes.
That's how you accomplish that. And when we are building them up and constantly allowing them to see their value and what they bring to your family and their positive qualities, I think that's how we foster that. I don't know, that social aspect for the kids.
That's awesome. And quite honestly, in the South, people are going to have, our kids are going to have more friends from school, and that's really okay. Quite honestly, those kids that my friends, the friends that my kids had from school were awesome people. They learned so much from them. I loved them. I even got to know their parents, some of them, and it was just a great thing. But it just does matter, that the groups that they're involved with and how you handle that. So I totally second what Jennifer's saying about self-esteem. Okay, it's how you talk to them and how you have them believe things are with them, with their life and their potential. And quite honestly, as moms, what you say to yourself, that self-talk, believe it or not, carries over to your kids, whether they hear you say it or not, because they'll see it in your actions. They'll see it in other things that will come about. And that does play a part. So you do need to make sure that what you say to yourself and how you talk to yourself, you want to even imagine your daughters saying that, or your sons even. If they talk like that, or your son said that to a woman, would that be okay? So teaching our children how to talk to themselves and how to, do different things really matters. Last couple of things, then we're going to sign off for the evening. Is someone had brought up the topic of service. I do believe that another fun thing or good memory that you can do is service opportunities. I didn't do it as much as I would have liked. I know that one of the things that we did do every Christmas is we go caroling, and before we go caroling, we bake cookies and we make cookie plates up and we deliver them to people. And that's a fun thing that we've done. And my kids kind of expect that now every year, even my grown kids. We'll get together and we'll go do that because that's a fun thing to do. We've even partnered with another family to do things. So whatever you can do, service project for somebody, go rake somebody's leaves, go make a dinner for somebody, go whatever you can do to be able to step outside of whatever stress you might be going through. That does help a lot. And then earlier, Heidi, you brought back a memory of mine when you were talking about your Come Follow Me study. So when everything happened with me, my kids were 7, 9, 11, 13, and 15. And my 11-year-old, Jeremy, at the time, I love Jeremy. Jeremy's like one of my favorite people, but he also has the most interesting stories. of growing up. So I love sharing them, and he's okay with me sharing them because, you know, he knows it. We all learned from it. But we weren't great when I was married about doing scripture study as a family. We would do it sometimes, but we seemed to do it more in spurts. We weren't like consistent about it every day. And back in 2005, I think it was when President Hinckley challenged everybody to read the Book of Mormon by the end of the year, and that was in August. Well, I have a reading comprehension disorder and a verbal comprehension disorder. So I rebelled, and I was like, how on earth would he expect me to read the Book of Mormon by the end of the year? There's just no way, you know? And I justified it. And I thought, surely he's not going to mean me because, you know, this reading comprehension issue. And so I didn't. I mean, I did read some, but I didn't finish it. I honestly didn't really attempt to finish it. I think I read it, you know, through 2nd Nephi, maybe a little bit past that. But I didn't read the whole book. And it was about 1.5 years after that my divorce happened. Now, that did not cause my divorce. My divorce would have happened whether or not that challenge was ever even issued because of the circumstances involved. But so when everything did happen, and I felt guilty for not doing that, right? So when everything did happen, I sat all my kids down. I'm like, we're going to be reading scriptures every day. We're going to be saying family prayers. This is just what we're going to do. Well, about, I don't know, a week into it, Jeremy, we had this chair, but Jeremy was literally sitting upside down, his head hanging down, almost touching the floor, screaming at me. Why do we have to do this? This is so stupid. And like totally having a meltdown. And I told him, I said, you don't have to hold scriptures. You just have to be in the same room. For 6 months, I had to battle that. He would come, but he was very reluctant, not very happy about it, but he would be in the same room. But about 6 months into it, I remember running late or, I don't know, being busy doing something else. And he's bringing scriptures to me and saying, Mom, we need to read scriptures. Come on, let's go. And I was like, all right, then, you know. And so it did come into it. And that was awesome. And we did have a very consistent family scripture study, family prayer, morning for them when they went to seminary school, and evening, you know, family prayer. So that became more consistent, and that really did bless our family. It really, really did. Now, he wasn't thrilled about going on a mission, Jeremy, but he did go. And I've always made it more their choice, not mine. But he knew he needed to go. And there were some situations there where it was hard because Matthew, with his Asperger's, was, let's just say, he was a behavior issue. And Jeremy was one that would help me with him a lot. And so we were both kind of concerned about him leaving. But he left. He went on a mission. And we were able to find great solutions for Matthew that has since changed that. He's no longer a behavior issue, which was a huge blessing for that. But then Jeremy came home from a mission and told me that he wasn't sure if he believed in the church. He wasn't sure he had a testimony. He didn't even know if he believed in God. And I was like, you know, that was pretty tough. And I knew enough to know not to overreact, right? I had learned that before. 10 years of being a single mom, I knew that much. And so I just pretty much told him, I'm like, well, you know, if you live in my house, we go to church because it's who we are, it's what we do. He's like, yeah, I know. I'm like, all right. He goes, but just know that I'm going more for social reasons. And I said, I don't care why you go. I just care that you're in that building. And so he went. And he knew that was expected, and so he did it. But it took him a while, probably close to a year, to come back to gaining his own testimony. He didn't gain his testimony on a mission, although he did have a very great mission, a very successful mission. But there was a girl that he met on his mission And they started talking a few months after he came home. And then they started dating. And she was very much into the church, or very strong in the church. And he was kind of thinking she might be the one. Well, she's like, well, these are my expectations. And I'm going to be married in the temple, and I'm going to marry somebody strong in the church, and da 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 da. So he wanted to live up to that. And they are now married. And he is now very solid in the church and has gained his own testimony and has his own conversion, which is awesome, right? So I tell you this because just know that there's going to be ups and downs in being a single mom. It's not going to be picture perfect. You're not going to have that perfectly lined up group of kids on the couch. Your family may never make the ensign. That's okay. You know, we are going to be blessed as long as we are doing what we need to do to live our best life, to be the mom, to be the woman, to be the person that the Lord wants us to be. And you're going to have days when you overreact. That's okay. You're going to have days that you're going to make a mistake and your kids are going to hold it against you 10 years later. That's okay. You know, it is just one of those things where you do your best. You continue to show up. You continue to set the example for them to go to church, for them to read scriptures, to study them. Oh, that was another thing too. I remember asking my kids if they had done their personal scripture study, and they're like, why are you on me about it? You're not doing it. And then I realized I was in my room at night doing this before I went to bed. No, they never saw me. So then I started bringing my scriptures out to the living room couch, and I would do it in the mornings, and then they would see me do it. And I didn't realize the importance of that until later. And now they know, you know, it's what I do, it's who I am, kind of thing, right? So now they see me doing that, and they know how much of a blessing that is, and how important it is to create that habit. And I don't know that all of them are perfect or great at that, and they may or may not be, and that may happen later on in their life, but it is something that I have done. I've read the Book of Mormon multiple times since 2005, and last year when President Nelson challenged us in October to read the Book of Mormon by the end of the year, I did not rebel. I was actually blessed with a way that I could spend time during the day to read 40 to 50 pages a day. And I would listen to it a lot too. And my comprehension in that time got better. And I finished it in 2 months. So, and I felt greatly blessed by that experience. And it was more of a testimony to just not rebel, to humble myself, because I can tend to be stubborn sometimes, believe it or not. But being able to show up, to set the example, to show your kids how to do it, and to be real, to be vulnerable. You don't have to tell everything. You don't have to share everything with them. There are some things they just don't need to know. There are other things when it's okay for them to see you have a PJ day because life's just gotten to be too much and you're just checking out for the day, and that's okay. We're not going to be perfect moms. We're not perfect people. We're not going to be perfect moms even if we're married. It just is what it is. You just do your best. The Lord gave you those children for a reason, and they are yours. They are your stewardship. They were not meant for somebody else to raise. And your influence is going to be huge, not only on them, but for the generations that you will influence. There's a couple of other comments here. Says, I tell my daughters, hey, no one talks about my daughter that way, and my daughter isn't allowed to say that about herself that way either when they put themselves down. So I love that. Let's see. Ideas for memories. It says, I try to think of doing things in terms of adventures, stuff they haven't done before, flea markets, hike to a waterfall, do some kind of craft project together, go explore a new park every weekend. You can be creative, even frisbee golf, touring, bike riding, or whatever you can think of. So yeah. Okay. Thank you all for joining me. Does anybody else have any other comments, questions, anything else you want to share? I know I've gone a little over tonight. I apologize. This is just a heavy subject. Not a heavy, it's an important subject of being a mom and making the most of a situation that, that we're in for whatever reason. But just know that your role is huge and it's important. And I love you guys. I think you're awesome. I appreciate you sharing your time with me. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.